stupid music that we've started. This EDM music.
You chose it.
Yeah, I did. I did choose it. All right, everybody. Thanks. This is episode 3, season 1. We have Dan Smith, and we're going to talk about his journey from school and how his life decisions have led him to work for a aerospace company, and basically part of the process or part of the standard operating procedure for exiting a space shuttle, which I think is pretty kick ass. So I think it would be really important, since the podcast is primarily about entrepreneurship, to I guess we start from the bottom, where we were talking a little bit before, and you were telling me that you had made a decision in school with a couple of your friends. If you can, just kind of tell me about that story and how you think it led up to the military. I think you and a couple of your friends had each went to different branches.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So really, I didn't have a plan going in to my senior year of high school.
Does anybody?
I don't. Yeah. Well, now I know that they do, but the people that I was hanging around did not. And I kind of tell people, like, they say, "Why didn't you go to college?" And, well, I didn't want to waste my parents' money, and student loans didn't interest me. And Dean and I go way back. I mean, Dean and diapers way back. And the the family that we grew up around wasn't really. They didn't really preach college.
No.
Not a lot of people went to college, so it wasn't something that was expected.
I don't know that they would have known how to preach college.
They never went.
Yeah.
Right. So how?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that for me, going into my senior year, you recognize, like, I have an opportunity when I'm 18 to get away from home or do something, and I had 3 other buddies. We were kind of the bro group, and one of them said something about going to the military, and then another one jumped on board, and I was like, I'll check it out. So I started going around to the recruiters and just talking, and what I found, I kind of fell into the Air Force was more something I was looking for, and tested, did pretty well on my little pre-test, and made one of the stupidest decisions of my life that actually led to one of the best decisions of my life. And I went in open general. So I basically told the military, this is how unplanned my life was at the time. I told the military, pick a job for me.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
so really, I don't know who picks that. Do you know who picks that?
They
job
go
like
based
this?
off of your aptitude test.
Okay.
Okay, so that you take this test, and they say, you're strong in mechanical.
Yeah.
You're strong in, I don't even know what all of the mathematicals in there, mechanical, and I don't know what I did well in and what I didn't do well in. I just basically said, pick a job for me. Little did I know how bad some of the jobs were. And then, so once I got, before I got to basic, we kind of had a pact, the 4 of us. We were going to join the military. So we spent that summer kind of knowing that's what we were going to do, and encouraging each other with, swift kicks in the ass of, like, working out and trying to get in shape and doing everything we thought we were needed to do. And then I was the first one to actually take off, though. So I think I was the last one to officially join. So even after I was the third one to go see the recruiter, and I kind of balked on it a little. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But once I made the decision, I was like, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. I'm going. I gotta go now.
Yeah.
So I went and did my basic training, and while I was in basic training, I found out what job I had, and they give it to you in a code. So, of course, it's not like firefighter. It's code. It's like 3E7X1. Well, I don't have a lot of resources in basic training to go, hey, what's this code? So I ended up just finding another person that had that code, and he knew what he was going into. And come to find out, like the job that was chosen for me was firefighting. And, even when I found out, I wasn't like the kid who grows up wishing to be a firefighter, right? I never had, so for me, it wasn't like, all right, I got it. Yeah. It was just like, oh, cool. That's the next part of my journey.
Yeah.
So, I went from San Antonio, Texas to San Angelo, Texas, and spent a couple weeks there. But yeah, and what's crazy is the 4 guys that I had that pact with in high school, 2 of them I still consider 2 of my best friends. Right?
Sweet.
Yeah, and
that's rare.
And I don't talk to them that often. That one of them lives in Wisconsin. The other one lives like in Maryland. Rarely get to see him, but when it comes down to like who, you know what I mean, who knows your friends are.
Definitely.
Those are 2 guys that I know.
Yeah, I actually have that relationship with a buddy of mine. He's the dude that commented like the little strong arms. His name's Justin, and we don't talk all the time. But today, he and I were actually talking about better ways to set up the camera. So it's weird how you have those.
Yeah, people that you can take criticism or like take a little bit of insight from, no matter where you're at in your life. Or
definitely. Yeah. And what's weird about those relationships is that you have some people that require you to talk to them all the time, and if you don't, you get those weird like I hadn't talked to that dude in 6 months. Well,
there's guilt involved too if you don't talk to that person.
But then there's other guys that they're like also cool on that level, and they'll randomly, hey, dude, I hadn't talked to you in a while. Right. What's up?
Yeah. And I've got that they're kind of rare, like you said, but when I got out of basic training, I went to tech school, and one of the people that I went to are kind of bonded with there that's my best friend to this day. Right, sweet. So we went to we got our assignment together. So finished fire school, and we happened to be going to the same base together. So he saw my kids, when they were like 3 days old. He actually took Jen home from the hospital.
Wow.
After a couple days after she gave birth, because I was working. Military's not. They don't really.
Yeah, they don't.
When you gotta work, you gotta work. Yeah.
Yeah. So something that I know and I think is kind of cool. Just hitting on the podcast is mostly entrepreneurship, but I think it's really important to talk about this because there are going to be a lot of people that watch this that maybe their journey is similar to yours, where like obviously if let's say in elementary school I've decided that I want to work in a aerospace environment, I'm not gonna Elon Musk it from elementary school. Like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Elon Musk did it.
Yeah, sure.
There's like one of him, and I'm not even sure that he's really human anymore. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So, and you got to also think of the amount of kids that grew up like Elon. Someone like that person. Granted, genius beyond belief. But he has a lot of things that normal everyday people can do that he does.
Okay. Well,
right. Like, but I get exactly where you're coming from. So a lot of people don't have a plan.
Yeah.
They have a goal.
Yeah.
They know they want to do something or they want to own a business, but they don't know. They can't see where they're at now.
Yeah.
And what the path is in order to get there.
Well, so a lot of people are certainly built for greatness, and they don't necessarily need to start a company to achieve the goals that they want to achieve in life. I think that the CEO of a huge company like, let's say, Walmart, or I don't know if Walmart, Either way, just a huge company that has a CEO. I would say that there are probably people like that that will grow more wealth than a large amount of entrepreneurs.
Sure.
So I'm glad that early on we can create a discussion and hopefully gain other people who want to talk about these things, because I don't want to give the perception that entrepreneurship's for everybody, because honestly, I think if I could choose where I'm at now, don't get me wrong, I'm really happy where I'm at, but I would certainly love to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the same thing though.
I wouldn't have. So yeah, I mean, sure.
But it's all about perception.
Definitely.
There's sweet and sour for everything, is the way I see it. So, kind of funny story about that, and it relates to perspective. My daughter really wanted these things called berry, berry. I think it's I got them, and I was like, what the heck is this? So I ordered some for Christmas. Well, then when they came in the mail, I opened them up, still having no clue what they were, and I started reading them about them. And it's a capsule that tastes like a Flintstone vitamin that's made of an all-natural berry, but it changes the way things taste. So if I eat something sour, it tastes sweet. So, and I go to perception on this.
Yeah.
You look at how some of the cool things. I love to tell you cool stuff because you're really interested in cool stuff.
Definitely.
So whenever I tell you a cool story, you're like, it's easy to say like, man, that seems like a cool job to be into.
Yeah.
But, right, like the taste is different sometimes in my mouth.
Definitely.
Because it's work. You know what I mean? It's
a
part of your job. But like I was saying, likewise, like granted, all of this might not be your livelihood, what pays your bills. But I walk in here and I'm like, dang, this is cool.
Oh,
this is rad.
Yeah, so it took me a long time to get to a point where I've been able to do the podcast. I've been wanting to do the podcast for 10 years now. I've wanted to talk about business. I wanted to start talking about business when I was working at Radio Shack. So the way I got hired at Radio Shack was kind of crazy. I was working at McDonald's, and the manager there, a dude named Dale Decker, changed my life. So no GED, 17 years old. Those are the first two qualifications to become a manager at Radio Shack. I had neither of those.
I remember 17-year-old Dean.
Dude.
I wasn't much older.
Had a lot of hair. Really hairy guy.
You were pretty hairy fella.
Yeah, right. A hair helmet. But, so I definitely...
So what did he say to you that changed your world?
He hired me. So Dale offered me a job. When you work at McDonald's, it's one of those places that you're basically in a pool of people that either A, are just there because they need to make money, or B, this is what their potential is. Not saying there's anything wrong if that is your potential, but
it's not meant to be a permanent
some people
means
shine.
Of right. Yeah, and so for me, the military was my McDonald's.
Yeah.
Now, and I granted, I was thrown into a very serious profession, right? But, and I had worked food industry in the past, so when I say it was my McDonald's, I meant it was the opportunity, right? So, you don't like where you're at today.
Yeah.
Right? You have an opportunity, but what are you doing about it in your current situation,
Definitely.
in your current job?
Yeah.
So, there's people that are 50 years old that also wanted to do, maybe not a podcast, right? But they wanted to do something when they were 17 without a GED, and they didn't. So,
what's cool about something like this and having a platform to talk about it is 50-year-old person has probably lived their life not knowing how easy it would have been to open a business.
Very true.
They didn't know that they can go on the internet, get a EIN, go to the Secretary of State the same day, and before lunchtime have a registered LLC. You're a business owner.
You're a business owner, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's...
And what you do with it is up to you.
Definitely. It's same with joining the military. I know that there are people that have joined the military. Don't get me wrong, a lot of crappy things happen in the military.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Sweet and sour, baby.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Sweet and sour. The good comes with the bad.
My buddy Rick does his... I think he was like 17 years old when he joins the Air Force, and was... When I met Rick, he was the supervisor over the maintenance of the vehicle. So actually, he worked on fire trucks.
Okay.
That was one of the things that he worked on.
Yeah.
When it came time for him to, I don't know if rank up's the proper term.
Yeah. Test for.
Yeah.
Yep.
He didn't want to get out of the shop. The next job was going to put him in a desk
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. And you see that.
So he basically ends up in a position where eventually the job that he had was no longer available. They tell him, you're going to have to get a new job. And one of the jobs, so it was like land surveying, like urology.
Mm-hmm. So the same process, that's the same process that I went through when I first initially went in, and I let them pick this job. They gave me this giant list of jobs, and then it was narrowed down, right? Yeah. And they showed it to me. So it was like one of them was like actually like an intel job, so an intelligence job and another one was X-raying aircraft for like minor cracks, right? And they actually have this X-ray thing they do with water, and they could run water on it to look at frequency to see if there's any types of bend or break in the material that's not visible to the eye. And I didn't know that's what it was at the time, and it sounds really cool, right? Well, then it's completely boring. So everything that I found out that I'm like, ooh, firefighting wasn't even on this list that they gave me. So they gave me this list, and then they narrowed that down, and then it was between like 4 jobs. So I'm thinking I'm definitely getting one of those, and then I get the job, and it was none of those. But I'm still just as open-minded. Looking back on it, it could have been security forces, and I'm nothing against cops or anything, but when I say security forces, I mean somebody standing at a gate guard, right, checking IDs. That wasn't for me.
Definitely not.
Right, yeah, like that. I like to move around too much, or they call them in police and fire. Right, we've got one of the all-time rivalries for sure as professions go, and we call them rivet counters because they sit on the flight line and guard airplanes, right? And they get so bored that they're counting rivets. But I'm very blessed, or I fell on, call it good luck sometimes, right? That's
sure.
And I think we've had a conversation about that. It's before. Sometimes it's right place, right time, but it's also what you've done with the opportunity that you currently have.
I believe in karma.
Yeah. I do believe in karma.
I believe in karma a lot. I believe that some people end up in places that they're at due to the decisions they've made up to that point.
Do you think that's what karma is? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
so karma from the perspective of people who religiously believe in karma, yes, that is what it is. So the decisions that you make today will change how your life happens tomorrow, in addition to what you will become in the next life.
What about like the idea of doing good with no certain reward? So, like, if I don't, because perception again, karma could be, for me, I don't know what the definition. I mean, what you just said was probably one of the most defined way of describing it, but I always saw it as if I see a person and they drop their wallet, right, the decision that I make right then is going to decide what comes to me in the future. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe in a year or 5 years, right? Like if I stop that person and say, hey, you dropped your wallet, or if I say, hey, I'm $20 low this month, or granted, that person might be, even if say they stepped out of their Corvette, right? And I know that person's got, right, it's not going to hurt them that much, and I take that. I see it as, I've always seen it as, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I want that coming back on me?
So there's a word for it. Actually, when I typed in, I was looking it up. I have some friends in India. They're Punjabi people, and they're Sikhs or Sikhs, depending on the name of that's called Dharma. And so it's like karma, but with a D.
Okay.
Exact same thing. So instead of like karma is I kick you in the shin, tomorrow someone's going to kick me in the shin. Dharma is you doing things in your life that are good selflessly. They believe there are 5 thieves, and it's like ego, greed. One of them is essentially lust. But basically, the idea is to not let those 5 thieves rob you. It's really cool, but it's Dharma. So the more good that you do, so basically you won't come back as a dung beetle.
Rolling poop around for another lifetime.
Hindu people believe you come back like 3,000 times or something like that.
Hey, I mean, lifetimes. I mean, an ant's lifetime's only a couple weeks.
I just want to know. Let's just say they're correct, because I'm extremely open-minded about religion, and I don't want to go too far down. I don't want to freak anyone out, but I'm really open-minded about this stuff. Let's just say that they're correct. Let's just assume for a second they're correct. And there's 3. Let's just say 3,000 is the number. What are we? Like, is this 2,194? And what is 900 after this? Like, this could be 14, or it could be 2,950.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
What happens after 3,000?
I don't know, bro. Illuminati.
Well, I mean, sometimes, all right, we jumped there quick. I mean, sometimes words that are long-lasting, the original meanings aren't exactly what they were intended. So,
agreed.
It's the idea of, and I know we said we're not going to jump down this hole too much, but we can make it work we can make it fit into what we're actually talking about here. So if I'm reading the Bible even, and I see that heaven and earth was created in 6 days.
Yeah.
Does that automatically assume that a day is 24 hours long? We don't, right? So I mean...
All right, so I had a podcast the other day with a tattoo artist, Chris Terrio, really cool guy. We did a second podcast just so that we could go down so that we could stray away from the entrepreneurship. I think we should do that.
I'm totally down with that.
And I think that we should, all these things right now that we're tiptoeing around because we want to have like this legitimate how to be successful.
I'm pretty sure that most of our conversations usually go down 4 or 5 rabbit holes.
All I'm saying is if you want to light the dumpster fire, I'll pour gas on it. I'm with it, bro. But luckily we have a firefighter to put it out.
Yeah, I think I can do that for you.
We'll have to have the proper fire extinguisher.
So, okay, I'll get back to my...
All right, so we were at... we didn't say where it was, which I think is important. We were talking about the friend, wife, hospital, kids.
Oh, yeah. So my first assignment was in Anchorage, Alaska at Elmendorf Air Force Base, 3,000 miles away from Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm an 18-year-old kid. I take that back. I was 19. I was freshly 19. So I'd spent, 6-8 months in Texas and then got an assignment to Alaska. So that was, that's what I was looking for. Not even the job, right? Like I was looking for something to take me away from what I knew and show me something.
And Alaska was that?
Well, it could have been anywhere. It could, well, yeah, because that piece of paper could have said anything other than Charleston Air Force Base.
Right. Had it said Charleston Air Force Base, what would you have done?
Ooh, I think that, well,
you couldn't have done anything.
There's nothing I could have done. But
very angry.
No, I don't think I would have been angry. There would have been a sense. There would have been a slight sense of relief, right? Because I would have been thrown right back into my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't have a plan before the military.
Definitely.
Because of I was comfortable, and I didn't see. I wasn't put in a position to better myself. Right. And not that I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. But there was never a time where I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Yeah. I never had that time. So I wanted to be in a position to almost, and I didn't really realize this until years later. I wanted to be in a position to where something said, what are you going to do?
Definitely.
So it's for me, joining the military, getting away from home, and kind of having to fend a little bit, right? Like go through some struggles, go through some times where your family's not right by your side. They're always a phone call away, but and see how if you can thrive. Right?
So Alaska, having friends in your military, something I'm curious about that I don't know. Did you do the base housing, or did you take the allowance and get a place?
So we lived on base housing, especially being new to the military. The idea of like moving off base was a little bit more risky. Being 19 with a family, I had a wife and we had kids when I was 20. It was safer on base, right? Not physically safer, but just the aspect of everything I needed was right there.
Yeah.
So once I got to my second base, I was a little bit older. I knew how the military worked, and that's when I took the opportunity to actually live off base.
Yeah.
And take the BAH, and we found a cool little spot in a cool area. So, but it was on base was you were still in Alaska, right? So the first place I lived before I had a base house ready was off base, and that was like a 1-bedroom apartment. It was really the first place I ever considered my domain, other than the house that I came from.
Yeah.
So funny story about that. This is how on Alaska we were. It was March when we got there, so there was still snow on the ground, but it was kind of going through this breakup phase.
Yeah.
Real sloshy. And we lived like 10 minutes outside of town, and 10 minutes in Alaska, you're in the city, you drive 10 minutes, you are in the middle of nowhere. You're in, it feels like you're in the bush. That's what they call right? Yeah. And so we're checking out this apartment, and we hear this plane that sounded like it's headed right for us. And then about an hour later, you hear another plane, and they're like buzzing the top of our apartment. And so I go outside, and I'm like, what in the hell? Like, what the hell would this plane be flying so close? And people lived on a lake right on the other side of us, and that was their transportation. They flew their planes, landed them. They had the skis on them. So I would go on walks and just watch these planes. It was like people flying into their driveway, just buzzing in, and they pull right into their dock.
Wow.
And get out. Yeah, pretty wild. Things you don't see though, right? Like if you're not from to them, completely normal.
So you don't just run out for a frappe when you live on.
Well, they could have easily got in their car and got right on the road because we weren't that far outside of town. But that was a normal Alaskan thing. Now I say normal, right? You got to be able to afford a plane.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not like everybody's driving around riding.
Well, everything's subjective. But
Yeah. It was more like even in Charleston, the people that play or that are live on a golf course,
yeah,
you don't see a lot of planes flying around that are personal. Like
definitely.
they pull right into their, you go up to the Santee Lake. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've ever seen a plane land and then
Well,
pull into their.
I think the first time I ever knew of an individual that owned a plane would have probably Frank Troy. I think it was like an Atlanta Braves game or something, and I heard it was like, oh yeah, we're gonna take the plane to this or something like that, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, growing up poor is weird because when you hear about things like that, those things sound radical.
Yeah, they do.
You don't think
Completely.
people own planes. Like, that doesn't even sound like a thing.
No, and really, when you grow up poor, the idea of being on a commercial airplane is sometimes far fetched.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I'm with it. That's crazy. So, something that I think is cool about Alaska is when you're born in Alaska, do the kids get the
dividend?
Yeah.
No.
You have to stay a resident? Is that
You don't have to stay. So if you're born there, you can receive it, but you have to return. I think it's annually, and you do have to own property.
Okay.
I don't know if you have to have a residence, like an address, but you have to own property. To continue to get that. I never applied for it. Didn't feel right. I don't know. I mean,
how many people do?
Well, people that I know that are not from there, that were military, right? They go there, they would have kids, and their family of 5 would get a check every year as a part of the oil dividend because they were residents, and their kids were born there. And it's all based on price of oil.
So, while we were talking about this, I was thinking of a buddy of mine that's he was in the Navy, and he's retired now. But while he was in the Navy, he bought a house.
Right.
And it was a 4-bedroom house. The 3 people that he rented the 3 rooms to was more than the mortgage of the house. I was just thinking, like, if you were to go to Alaska and like,
yeah,
like if you were a 18-year-old entrepreneur, you're like, I'm gonna join the military, go to Alaska, have these guys pay for my house that I'll continue to own, and then get this check.
I mean,
to this.
it's a perk.
That's
you're not breaking a law, you're not committing a crime.
You're serving your country.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
to me and to everyone else, because that would be my hero.
Look, I know.
If a 20-year-old told me he did that, I would go, "You're my hero, bro."
And we're not even talking. You got to think about the amount of money it is too, because granted, in the military, every dollar counts for sure, especially whenever you're E1, E2, E3, E4, and you're not balling at E5, right?
Okay.
You're still kind of middle ground work, it's not anything that's going to go out and allow you to purchase a Jaguar fresh off the lot, but it does take care of you. Right, it does.
All the young military guys buy Subarus.
Subarus or
the Lancer was cool for a little while. Everyone bought an Evo.
No, those are the dorm kids.
The dorm kids.
Yeah,
they buy the Evos.
Well, so you got to think of it. We talk about college.
Your face lit up just now,
they had like the car club kids and stuff, which some of them were really cool cars, and I was a little jealous because I was a family man.
Yeah.
Okay, I had to have a 4-door no matter what.
Yeah.
And so like there was a little bit of envy, right? I wanted. Like a sport,
exactly.
I'll say it. I wanted an Evo, Dean. Damn it!
Man, the Evo X came out. I was so sad.
Dude, this tells you how un-Alaskan I was.
Awesome.
We drive to Alaska, and the first winter hits. I've got 2 kids in car seats. In a 2-door rear-wheel drive Blazer. Perfect. Like a 2001. Okay.
Awesome.
So not only do I have to jigsaw my kids in the back seat every time I get them in,
Yeah.
but then when it starts to snow or anything that's wet on the ground, I'm at stoplights. The light turns green, and I've got I'm trying to go, and people are hopping out of their cars, coming and throwing kitty litter under my tires to gain traction, which just makes you feel like a complete asshole, right? Because otherwise, I'm staying at that light.
That's good karma, bro.
Well, you might be right, and it taught me, hey, get another car, dumbass. So, and I did.
And also keep kitty litter.
Keep kitty litter for the new people.
And the guy in front of you
Right.
might not have the kitty
Yeah,
litter.
yeah. Newbies.
Jeez, man.
Well, I said something about the dorms earlier. So we were talking about, you mentioned you were 17, no GED,
Yeah.
right? Like, and looking at it from like there's a lot of people I was just in a situation where, I met my wife in high school, and but let's just say, you join the military at that age and you're in the same position that I was as far as the direction in your life goes. They joined the military, and I know more people now that went to a 4-year college than I did at the time.
Sure.
Well, you compare the two different lifestyles, and they graduated high school. They went through the hell of basic training. But then they go and they live in a dorm on an installation.
Yeah.
And they get up and they go do the 8 hours, and then they come back to their dorm. It was college.
Yeah.
It was
paid college.
They were obligated, but
yeah.
They had a job that was teaching them something at the time. Because when you first go in, it's not like you just start working. You're being taught continually, right? You have levels of progression that you have to meet in order to continue your military career. And the first one is to get your, you come there as a 3-level. That means you completed your schooling, right? So you are a journeyman, right? You still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And the old adage of like, when you get to your first base, forget everything the school taught you. We're going to teach you the real way to do it. Happens, right? And you that's your foundation, though. You will always go back to that initial training. And everybody that says forget what you're doing, you can forget it. They weren't necessarily talking about like totally brain dump. They were saying we don't always do things by the book. We do things that work.
Definitely.
Right? So you have to be adaptable.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're really telling you to do. Be adaptable.
Okay.
But then you go through, then you have all these requirements. So these kids are in a dorm, right? And they're going to school by going to work. So they're learning as they're going to work. And so I would compare these stories, and they talk about the wild dorm parties in college. Well, then you hear the same similar stories about the wild parties in the dorm in the military. So, I think that it's a good option for someone who doesn't see college as a decision that they want to make from a financial standpoint, but also that wants to see something else, right? And they can have that same experience as you would in a college. You're in a dorm. You're in a dorm with people that are your age, right? The majority of the people that join the military initially are going to be fresh out of high school kids.
Yeah.
So it's very similar.
So aside from the like super hua, I want to go to war people, you would say that joining the military is basically more education than implementation normally?
At least for your first enlistment.
Yeah, so my buddy Rick that I was talking about that did he was like the maintenance dude.
Mm-hmm.
His last, I think it was a year, was when he had to get like another job, and his argument about it was that it would take a year to train him to do the job they were going to train him to do, but they still did. Like, I don't think he ever actually surveyed anything. Like, I believe that they effectively just trained him to be like a surveyor or something like that.
So that's the job that he ended up.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was either that. I really think the other one was like urology.
Right.
Like, who the hell, like...
And everything, you know, and it's similar in the corporate world where, you know, it's the bean counters.
Yep.
Right? It's where are we short? Where do we need people?
Yeah.
Right? And you know, the real reality of it is, if there was a way to find the right people, right? By the right people, I mean personality.
Definitely.
So, and I've always been like, so I had a boss, and I consider him one of the, you know, the best boss managers that I've had, but it took like 3 or 4 years before me to feel that way. Because at first I'm like, I can't work for this guy. Because I was a, how does this make you feel guy? And he was a data on paper guy. Right? But I learned to respect the data on paper guy.
You have to.
I had to, right? But once I learned to respect it, it doesn't mean I had to forget about how does this make you feel. Because by how does this make you feel, if this doesn't make me feel good, it doesn't mean that I cave in and go, okay, well, I'm going to do what makes you feel good. Yeah. It's more about, does what I'm asking you to do make you feel safe?
Yeah.
Right? Does what I'm asking you to do make you feel comfortable in the skills that you have? If not, what do I need to do?
Definitely.
And I'm asking myself a lot of these questions too, along with whoever it is. And then, you know, this is more getting up into, you know, maybe the 10-year mark in my career.
Okay.
Right? Like, I'm at the point now where I'm teaching. Yeah. Right? And, you know, I started teaching. I kind of have a very strong passion for education for younger, the next generation behind me is something that I'm really big into. And I just still to this day is something that I enjoy doing. Not the younger people necessarily, but the people that, you know, need to know something that I might know.
So teaching, is this firefighting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it is, or life skills, right?
I think that that is something that a lot of emphasis needs to be put on in general. I think that the standards for fire stations is exceptionally low compared to a lot of other things. Like, for instance, a sunglass factory has a very strict tolerance on where the holes need to go so that the screws line up. But you can go to firehouses that have jackasses that run them that are not using proper equipment. Now, if the screw comes out of your sunglasses, don't get me wrong, you're pissed off. You bought a $200 pair of sunglasses. But when there is loss of life as a result of an idiot who doesn't properly stock something, so I think that education in a firehouse is huge.
Well, yeah, and it has to be tied in to ego as well, right? Because there's some proudness in the culture of that job.
I'm glad you said that, because data on paper guy saves lives.
Yeah, he can. It can very much relate to exactly that, so, where it turns into the procedures, right? The operating procedures. Yeah. That, you know, because of this data, we're going to make this change to how we do business. Yeah,
so having a friend that was a firefighter, like I genuinely love this dude. He's a friend that I say I love. I love his family. He and I had some conversations about just different things that happen in firehouses. Yeah. Not specifically just in general, where they use antiquated equipment, or say that these two lines of this size have the same effect as this line, when obviously it doesn't, because of the friction of the and the volume. Yep. So you have, basically you can not do the same job.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So you used to be able to we have like a booster line. It's a 1 inch. It looks like a enhanced garden hose.
Yeah.
Okay. And that used to be something that was acceptable to pull inside of a building.
Yeah. So.
But it's not now.
Without his permission, I can't talk too much about it. And honestly,
absolutely.
I want to get you and him together because I don't think he will talk about things that he experienced, but I think that you would be a really good person to do an episode specifically about something like this.
Yeah.
And I think it would just be a general, having the right equipment to do the right job, but we could use firehouses specifically. But he actually mentioned that. He said that we were trying to put a fire out with what is effectively a garden hose.
Right. Well, and but when it's when it's a part of the culture.
Yeah.
Because it's worked in the past.
Uh-huh.
The issue is sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
Right. But statistically, what's needed. Right. So it might work. It might work. It might work. When it doesn't work, what is the result of that?
Definitely.
So now it becomes roll the dice.
Yeah.
And if you don't have to roll the dice, if I can guarantee something, right? If I can beat because I have the proper equipment, then money always is a factor.
Well,
and whatnot, but knowing what to fight for with the money that you do have is important.
What's really sad about a firefighting community is it is still very much the good old boy system, and the culture shades the facts, and that I believe that it would be safe to say, knowing 100% fact of one instance where there was a huge loss of life catastrophically, I'm willing to bet across the country that there are probably lots of situations where there are loss of life as a result of improper training in the good old boy system. And I think this also applies to other things that are going on in the world.
Which is where the data guy can come into handy.
Yeah.
Because you can only generate data from your area. You can, and now with the technology that we have, information is shared so easily.
Definitely.
And there's no reason to not have pertinent data if you're doing the job.
A lot of it comes down to eating your pride for the sake of caring about the future. And I think a lot of people won't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I know.
There are probably a lot of egotistical fire chiefs.
Well, I mean, egotistical is one thing, but pride is another. Okay. So, and I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we're
walking on a tightrope.
We are, but we really don't need to. This is a very valid situation and a very, this is something that happened in our community.
Well, so the fact that you teach, intrigues me because it makes me wonder, why is there not a standard? So there are a standard.
There is now.
So if I want to today, if I want to join
the fire department.
Yeah, the fire department. I want to
in the city
say volunteer or whatever.
Okay.
Whatever it is. And I go through the standard training.
Right.
Is it true, or do you know if it's true? And we'll just say the state of South Carolina, just to make it something that you're probably very knowledgeable about, that all firehouses have the same equipment?
No.
Okay. But how can you train someone without having... All right, so you have standard training, but you don't have standard equipment.
Well, if I taught you how to drive, I can teach you in a Mitsubishi. I could teach you in a Mirage, right?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
You're gonna learn how to drive.
What is the term when a pump
cavitate?
Cavitate, yeah.
So it means you're putting out too much. You're putting out more than you're getting in.
Okay.
So
if you've trained me with this equipment and then I go to this firehouse and I'm trying to implement what you've trained me with the good equipment. I go here and they don't have the equipment
that goes back to remember what you
cavitate.
learned in school, throw it out the window.
Exactly.
You have to be adaptable. Now, adaptable does not always lead to success. You have to do what you feel is best at the time. And that's where the feelings guy comes in, right? Does this bring my warm and fuzzy?
Yeah.
Does what I'm doing, do I see success coming from it?
Sure.
So, I was on military leave when the Sofa Superstore fire happened. Okay. And I remember being home and hearing sirens. And I lived, in the Ardmore area, right across St. Andrews High School. I know you know where it was.
Yeah.
But very close.
Yes.
Earshot of that building.
Uh-huh.
And, I stepped outside and you saw the smoke coming up. And so I'm on leave. I'm a firefighter. And instinctively, I wanted to go see what's going on. I didn't because I know, there was nothing I can do. Right? I have no gear, no equipment.
Sure.
But let's just say that someone's driving by and they're a firefighter.
Uh-huh.
And they know better than what they see is going on at the time.
Definitely.
If they got out of their vehicle and they went over there and tried to educate at that time, it wouldn't have changed anything.
Catastrophic.
So the education has to come before the catastrophic event, right?
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying. But here's what that happened, and something happened from that allowed. If I wanted to be a firefighter here, I had to go through their training whenever I got accepted. If I wanted to be a firefighter next door, I had to go through their training.
Devil's advocate.
Now the way it is, if you want to be a firefighter in the state of South Carolina, you have a standard curriculum to go through.
Perfect.
So everybody, in theory, right? There's still some, right?
Yeah.
There's still some stations and some departments that do it a little different.
I'm sure eventually.
But there is a state standard. There is a state fire academy where you can go and get sponsored to train.
Devil's advocate.
Okay.
And this is where things get extremely personal. I'm just going to dive on it.
Hit me.
The train guy stops, doesn't act because he can't change the situation, but then reports on the situation so that it was accurately reported.
Okay.
And a hero is now a martyr because that hero...
It's a whistleblower in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, on a small scale.
Okay, yeah. Would change have happened faster, and would other lives have been saved as a result? Because of the firefighting community, that doesn't happen.
You're saying, okay. I mean, I think that similar to the conversation we had about karma earlier, the facts come out in the long term.
Not always.
Well, I mean, and you're really, I mean, in security side or
We're super tightrope right now.
Well, I mean, I think it relates to, there is some relation.
Well, all right.
We can get back on the track if you want.
Let's park that.
I love your questions though.
We'll park that for another day, and I think it would be good for me to talk to some people that I could take some notes, because I think that you maybe could better educate, knowing that these things have happened, because these guys are going to get out of the military, and some of them are going to be because they've been trained with proper equipment. They're not going to know why that pump's cavitating, and when they're in that building,
I hear what you're saying.
They're not going to know the pump's cavitating. They're going to think that people are walking on
but
the
that
line.
can happen trained or not trained, right?
Sure.
But I hear what you're saying. Equipment has to be able to handle what it's designed for.
Sure.
So you can have really old stuff that works really well.
Uh-huh.
Right? But you can have brand new stuff that's not operated correctly. Sure. That is the bigger problem. So in my opinion, the idea of, and this is this might be true across a number of different areas, is where there's some things that need some either upgrades or replacements, but fire pumps in general are relatively simple.
Being trained in a factory setting, cavitation for my background is from hydraulics, but I would say it's probably the exact same.
Pretty similar.
Okay, you've introduced air into the line.
That is the cause.
That's cavitation.
But you got to think we have wet hydrant systems here because we don't freeze often.
Gotcha.
So when I open a hydrant, right, the cap, and I throw air in that water.
Gotcha.
Now, if I'm drafting water out of a pond,
okay,
right, and I don't do it correctly, now I can start introducing a lot of air, which could
be a huge issue. Yeah.
So but going back to your point, I see, talking about training and kind of really the love that I have for training, not only for other people, but for me too, teaching it and showing it, improving it. Then now I'm just shored up my, not just viewpoint, because it's really not about opinion at this point. It's about I verified that these things are.
And it is an EMT. Because I was curious about how crazy. Like, I had someone make a comment, and they were like, to become an EMT, you just have to do this little bit of training. Like, you can go to tech school and do it. So then I talked to an EMT and find out, and she's like, yeah, $1,500 and less than a year, and you're an EMT. So
potentially.
When I learned that, I was like,
I mean,
are you kidding me? Like,
but
I had 47 certifications. I knew more about Samsung phones than these people do know about heart rhythms.
But you have, but see, that's the thing about it, though. Here with the EMT, though, that what they said that you can come.
Balls crazy.
That is a basic EMT.
Okay.
All right. That is your entry level.
They basically save your damn life.
They can apply pressure and stop bleeding. Right? They can do some very basic things that can have a big outcome.
Yeah, by the way, I do not mean to.
No, I know exactly. Well,
I definitely don't want to do
completely know what you're talking, where you're coming from.
Saying, blew my mind.
There's from an hour standpoint, it doesn't really add up to think that if I call 911, and the person that's going to be coming through to my house to save me has a very limited hours.
They might be entry-level EMT.
Most of the time, they're going to get paired with somebody because they always work in pairs. Well,
we're back to karma.
Most of the time. Well, they should. I would say they should be definitely paired with somebody
probably
who
more cost
is
effective if they're not paired with someone. One driver, one $1,500 EMT person.
Yeah, you put two brand new people on a truck.
$35 an hour come to save your damn life.
And they probably get lost.
An hour labor, and these are the people saving your life.
They charge you for everything that is touched when you're in the back of the ambulance.
There's more labor paid out walking across Lowe's than the people that come to save your life in a
right. True story.
I mean, they both cost $800 to walk out of.
Yeah,
Lowe's and not spend $800. All right, yeah. So we leave Alaska.
It was I went from winter wonderland to winter hell.
Where?
To Cheyenne, Wyoming. And it's the worst place I've ever seen in my life.
I'm sorry, Wyoming.
And I know I'm not sorry, because if you live, well, hold on now, because we shouldn't put the whole state into this.
Just Cheyenne.
There's a
country song
very specific. Yeah, yeah.
The
world's largest rodeo that is there, and the town like triples in size.
I saw like a Netflix show about a rodeo, and it was a pretty shitty show.
Real, yeah.
That's dope.
And the wind's always blowing 80 miles an hour. Okay, but I had a great time. Probably while I was there.
If you're gonna live in a place like that, you can't suck.
You got right, and luckily that was the tightest knit crew, right? Because I worked in the fire department.
What else were they going to do?
That's all we had. Yeah. So we'd get out. We worked 24-hour shifts. We were 24 on, and a lot of phase 10, spades, the whole gamut. We ran it all. We had poker nights,
chili cook-offs.
We did it all, dude.
Yeah,
we did it all. Chili cook, chili cook-offs.
I'm with it. I don't know why I associate firehouses with good chili. It's like a thing, like a staple.
It is, and there's a stigma around.
Weird that that's.
No, you ever eaten real firehouse chili? Then you'd know why if you did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You kind of called me on that just now.
I mean, I've never had firehouse. No, I'm just playing. I've had a lot of chili. But I worked in the firehouse, and this was, in no time was I an entrepreneur through this journey. But I worked a normal job.
Yeah.
When you think military, oftentimes people think of the yelling and screaming, right?
Yeah.
I woke up and I put a different uniform on than most people, but I went and did my job just like the plumbers did.
You were just a firefighter on base.
I was a firefighter.
Basically.
Yeah, that's a normal day-to-day job. Electricians.
So that's honorable though, and I think that it's crazy. A lot of people who have jobs like that get discredited a little bit. So you hear people that have gone to like Kuwait, Iraq, like in the army, they like to cook.
Yeah,
I would say it's just as honorable.
Absolutely.
I think being a firefighter in Cheyenne, Wyoming, is just as honorable as shooting back at a firefight in Kuwait. It's just as honorable as cooking the food.
Ooh. Well, if you're getting shot at while you cook, yes.
Well, so I definitely think there's something that comes along with it, but the cook probably didn't join the military and say it was a possibility they could be infantry.
Well, if especially if they went into like the army.
Man, I got a buddy of mine that was a scout, and he is about that shit. His stories are wild.
Yeah.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Had he not gotten hurt, he'd be in the military today. Loved it.
And most people that if you don't too, right? So, and I say love what you do. I should redact that slightly. When they get out, they look back.
Oh yeah.
And they love what they did. At the time, it doesn't always, you're seeing it through a little the shade that you're looking through is not always rosy.
Well, I'm sure in the moment, no one wants to get shot at.
Well, yeah, and I'm talking about the plumber.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. But here's the thing. Here's the good thing about it. If I have the coolest job in the military, and I'm an E5, I encounter any other E5. Yeah. This job is better because it gets paid more is non-existent.
Wow. That sounds like socialism.
And it goes off of this testing, right? Yeah. They reward people that do well on test. And if not, you have another chance next year to do well.
Gotcha.
Right? But there's other things that are obviously put into it. But, the doesn't come into play.
Definitely.
There's and it kind of levels the playing field as far as the importance of a job becomes not as structured as what we might see on the outside, where a lot of kids that I hear from these days, even some, friends, I'll talk to them and there's a real resiliency or like lack of interest in getting a job is considered like low level or I'm like, well, that's everybody starts from a low, like from an entry level. So, but I could have stayed there.
Yeah. Well, did have like McLaren and stuff like that. All right.
Sure.
Good example. Okay. I drive a pretty nice truck. I
want to say I'm proud of you about your truck too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Put a new grill in it yesterday. Day before yesterday. But I drive a pretty nice truck. All in all, I have some cool stuff. Manager, like I'm completely cool with saying that. The people that they see on YouTube, and their
instant success,
ass TikTok famous people,
right?
Dude, TikTok booted me because I put a video of a burnout on there and they said it was unsafe. You could sniff a gummy worm through your nose and that's cool. If I do a burnout in a badass C10, it's unsafe. Whatever.
I didn't know that. That TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't boot me. They booted the video. And they were like, "This is unsafe. This is dangerous."
That's 2 platforms you've been kicked off.
3. This is actually episode 7 of 7 episodes, and I've been booted off 2 platforms already. You know,
Do you think that it's because of
he was making dumb money.
are there more regulations for the up and comers?
Yes, certainly. So people like him have enough notoriety that they benefit companies and advertisers to a level that shareholders won't balk at things. Like if I make someone look bad at a company,
Yeah.
and their shareholders were to be mad about it,
There's more leniency.
yeah, definitely. Like seriously, like
I didn't know that.
Oh,
It makes perfect sense, but I never really
yeah,
played that out.
100%. Actually, anybody who's watching this at this point, please share, subscribe. YouTube is the only thing right now that is going to give any hope of really growth right now.
Have you looked at it like other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other platforms?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. FM is who I used. I uploaded everything, and then they offer you a monetization deal. So immediately you're monetized. As long as you have X amount of... here's the way the monetization works. They send you a script. The beginning of those videos literally says how I like Anchor.
Yeah,
So
you hear that on
Spotify say how easy it was to use Anchor. At that moment, Anchor was amazing. They had me on Spotify in a couple of hours. And then when they dropped me, there's still 3 episodes on there. You gotta wonder how many grassroots podcasters.
Yeah, start off
They
right.
don't have a phone number.
Yeah.
They don't. They have a little chat window that you use. Anyway, I don't want to.
No, that is
But yeah, totally.
interesting.
Yeah. So YouTube's gonna be my.
Your go-to?
It's gonna have to. So honestly, now that Joe Rogan, I mean, because that dude he's like 15 or 20 years in. Like he's been doing it so long.
Yeah.
That to aspire to be him, that's basically like saying I can be the president. You know, like sure I can be. You know, but it's one of those like I'm gonna have to build. It's not gonna happen next year. It would take 10 years to get to where he's at.
Right. I think
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm completely okay with
So,
that.
have you ever heard the term? Actually, I think the last time I've heard it before, but it rings a bell because you mentioned the name Joe Rogan, and I listened to Joe Rogan, and a few other podcasts on a regular basis,
Yep.
and I can't remember if this was on this show or the Joe Rogan show or not, but the expression of comparison is the thief of joy. Right. So so if you're like trying to say I want to be this person,
Definitely.
you're comparing
100%.
what, right?
Yeah.
The joy that you get from doing that exact thing can easily be stolen from you.
Definitely.
It's about doing what you're doing and continuing to do what you do.
I'm cool with it. And
I know I'm not referring this to you.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying just in general.
So let's just say that tomorrow YouTube boots me. I won't stop.
Mm-hmm.
I won't stop at all. Honestly, not to like be that guy, but I know enough cool people that are badass enough that I could start a platform if I wanted to. Like, seriously? Like,
Yeah, every time I talk to you, you're like, oh, I got a buddy who does this job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how the heck, where did you meet this person at, Dean? Like,
Oh,
but
so
I mean, your network is huge, man.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
Definitely.
And I think that, like, you know, you asked me to come on here, and at first, I'm like, I'm a boring dude. Okay. But in reality, I've done some cool shit.
Yeah.
You know,
It's impressive.
I look back and I'm like, man, I have done some cool. Day to day, I'm a pretty boring dude.
You're probably boring today because you're relating that to what you've done.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
When you've done badassery for so long. You know,
And over the last, 10, 12 years, I could pull out a map of the world.
yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of lines
Definitely.
right? Like, and I've been places and I've seen cool things, and so I, boring on a scale of, but I hear some of the, the people that you bring up, and they can probably say the same thing a lot of times, right? Like day to day, it's like they're maybe a dad, right? But opportunity comes up where they get to do some really cool shit.
So what's cool is, like, in our conversations when I'm not on, like right now we're live, I would never clout chase on this, but in our conversations, like, I'll name drop, but I never name drop on here, and I do it intentionally. Like, last night, I was at a Christmas party for a recording artist that had just got back from Nashville.
Cool.
Like, we're at his house, hanging out by a fire, drinking, having fun, just surrounded with awesome people.
Very cool.
And these are the things that they're not completely uncommon for me to do. One of, I would say, my peers has a YouTube channel with over 300,000 followers. He makes $30,000 a month.
Right.
$30K a month, bro, to do a once a week channel. Does one video a week. And I never clout chase. Never ever. I'll never say his name. Not on video anyway. Never. Yeah.
Well, and most of the people that you name drop, not, maybe if it was a recording artist or something like that, but, just people that you've encountered, I don't know anyway. But the story is so cool that it gives credibility far as, like,
when I drop a name, typically it's out of respect.
Absolutely.
Like,
that's what I feel whenever you
100% just think these people deserve that respect. So anyone that I don't name drop, I intentionally do it because I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to, I'm not a hitchhiker.
Right.
Like, I will make my own path.
Yeah. You've always been pretty good about that.
What's funny is these people instruct me to name drop, and they want to come on the show.
Cool.
Like, they want to do it.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm resisting it because I want to have a grassroots effort, and I don't want to be springboarded by anybody.
Well, these are learning experiences for you.
Dude, this is awesome.
Me coming on here and talking to you and is it's preparation for something bigger.
I think that we will re-record this show because I think that if I believe this is going to end up in a studio at some point.
That would be awesome.
And I think that we'll want to redo it just to have more of a platform that is going to reach people properly. Not that this won't, but I believe that we'll redo this. What you're doing is huge. Like, I would go as far as saying that 10 years ago, if you were to bump into Elon Musk in an elevator and be doing what you're doing now, then his mind would be blown, dude. I think he would be like, holy shit, that's what you're doing? He would offer you a job.
Well, and
he'd be like, have you ever heard of an electric car?
Right. Yeah, and some of it, some of the other things that I've
really think
done,
about that, dude.
And there's, the opportunity that I have to do what I, do a portion of the job that I do now, dealing with spacecraft and dealing with things that are just, there's so much mystery or like so much interest in just like mystique around the ideas of something beyond what we see in our realm, right? Our you can look up as far as you can in the air, and you can't see where some of these vehicles are going, right? So the idea of people traveling up to a point that only very few people can say that they've been, and then returning is mind blowing. It's fascinating. Well, that's funny you say that. I brought you something, and it's not a moon rock, but I did bring you something. Okay. It's not a narcotic. I'll just start off by saying
it's not a narcotic. What is
so? That is a a piece of a forward heat shield off of a spacecraft after it returned.
No way.
And I saw, you guys can kind of see how all the cool stuff that Dean has in this room.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to bring something to kind of like go, but here's the problem. You can run out of space really fast. So I was like, this is tiny, and I'm going to let you pick if you want to find a little box or a glass cube, but that's actually off of a space vehicle that was in space. And when it returns, right, it's a giant shield, and it heats up, it absorbing the heat so that the capsule itself doesn't get so hot that the crew.
How often can you get stuff like this?
Not very often. Like,
so I was thinking,
often.
I'm about to redo my desk, and it would be dope to have this in the epoxy. To have it be part of the desk.
That would be rad.
Like, it would be part of the...
Hey, you do what you want with it. I just think it's cool that you like. Man. I wanted to share it, so I got a chunk of it, and I mean, it's cool. Dope, I like it, and I was like, I gotta share it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll post a picture of this. So the camera that we're recording on is typically a photography camera, but I'll take a really good picture of this and post it.
And I mean, and really, it's probably not like. I mean, you can take a great picture of it.
Awesome.
But it's from like unless you know what it is, you can tell. It looks kind of like a piece of burnt charcoal.
It's cool though. It's cool. I didn't. Wow.
So they took that and they broke
awesome.
up. Yeah, I was like, that'd be cool to a little little addition.
Definitely.
Something to.
I need to make that a thing, like where I have a way to document the things that have.
Right.
Almost like a little baseball case type thing.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe like a little. They sell those
dude.
like base things that you put a baseball in that's signed, but like smaller version of that.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I figured I'd hook you up with
something.
Let's
all right, so your time in the Air Force, firefighting, stuff like that. You
so I did 8 years.
Along. So what is the transition from that to aerospace look like?
Okay.
Was there a gap there?
Yeah, well, there was a gap, but there was never a gap where I wasn't employed.
Okay.
Okay, so before I got out, I mean, I still had a family, and I still do, but so before you get out, you go through the process of trying to find employment in the area that you're looking to move back to, and so for me, that was home. Like, I'd been away long enough. That I wanted my kids to be around grandparents and things like that. So moved back to Charleston, and there was a big learning curve, especially because I didn't jump right into airplanes. Right.
Gotcha.
I went to firefighting, and I went to the municipal side, and I worked city department.
Is it okay to say what?
Yeah, I was at St. John's on Johns Island.
Sweet.
For 2 years, and man, I still have friends. People that I consider close friends in that department. Some of them work for other departments now, but
you worked at St. John's.
Yeah. Is
that on the West Ashley side of things, or is that deeper into like down Main Road, or is it closer to?
Yeah, I'd say further down Main,
like towards Maybank.
Before Maybank. So once you're on Johns Island, you're covered by St. John's.
Okay.
So, and what was cool about it is there were people over there that I went to high school with that I worked with.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like there was, while I didn't know the mass majority, there was a little bit of being home involved with work, which was cool.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years, and then I had an opportunity to move over to be. To kind of go back to my roots when it came to aircraft and firefighting. So the primary purpose of going to school and going to in the military was all about protection of the asset, right? Aircraft, and so I had a good foundation in that.
Definitely.
I never really thought that there was going to be an opportunity on the outside to use that aircraft stuff though. I never saw that coming. So when I had the opportunity to,
yeah,
it was either, and this is where, I was hoping some of the conversation would go is it's opportunity. You can take it or you can't.
Yeah.
And where I sit today, like, I last 2 weeks was the first 2 weeks in an assistant chief role, and I'm a young. I just had a 37th birthday, but I still consider myself pretty young.
Yeah.
And from a chief standpoint, right? I'm not the gray-haired guy that's been in the department for 30 years. But all that has to do is opportunity. It's finding a door, and if I felt happy in one area, I didn't necessarily let it stop me from growth.
Definitely.
And that's some personal ambition and drive, not for title, not even for money, just some of it's curiosity.
Definitely.
I like to see where things are going to take me.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to put my toe in the water to try it out. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I think that's a good lesson, because if you don't try things, you don't know.
I agree. You have to face a lot of failure before you find success.
That's an understatement, isn't it?
I am going to attempt to stop talking about Elon Musk so much. The dude's definitely a hero. I think it's awesome he named his company Tesla. I mean, Nikola Tesla essentially lived his life
failing.
Yeah.
Failing.
Full of success, though.
Right. Yes.
Success that hadn't been found yet.
Yep. And so,
robbed. Completely robbed of success.
I got a feeling what this is. You're gonna know this. You're gonna know this answer.
Right.
Do you know what WD-40 stands for?
I don't.
Water dissoluble 40th attempt.
What?
So it took them 40 times to get the right solution.
Water dissoluble.
40th attempt.
That actually makes complete sense. All you rednecks that use WD-40 as a lubricant, it's not. It displaces water.
It displaces water.
Yeah, people that use WD-40, they're like, I'll just spray some WD-40 on it. I'm like, you're an idiot.
Because why do they think that, though? Because it solves so much shit.
Yeah.
It solves so many problems, right?
I just think it's awesome that...
And for you, or the person that uses the can, it'll fix it in one try.
Dude, rednecks have been
oh my God.
That on rusty stuff forever.
Back behind duct tape?
Yeah. Done.
It's easy number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. Water dissoluble.
Yeah.
So
it took them 40 times.
These are the patents. These are Tesla patents.
Rad.
And then the bulb up there, the patent for that bulb is next to that bulb.
Rad.
So it's obviously not a real bulb, but because that's LED, so that I can leave it on all the time. But yeah, Nikola Tesla is just...
He's genius. He's a and all the technology that's coming behind the majority of the ideas behind what's making it work are not new.
Yep.
There are things that are just being like this, dude. How many the equipment and most people probably can't see this.
Yeah, no.
But if you were to take the equipment that you have on your desk,
definitely
20 years ago,
it'd be the size of this room.
It would be the size of this room.
Yeah.
And so entrepreneurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody saw something in something,
dude,
and said, I can make that smaller.
Yeah.
Or I can put lights on this that'll do something that's different.
Will blow your mind. Okay. I have a button on this board that connects Bluetooth to my phone. It takes a signal from outer space.
Yes. Right.
And shoots it to the board so that I can call someone back to outer space and to their phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we should be driving ingenuity.
Yeah.
And we should be relying on people to do that for us.
Yeah, I think that these huge tech companies, and I hate that we call them tech companies. Like they call Facebook a tech company.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's not a fucking tech company.
I mean, when you look at some of the algorithms and whatnot that are created by them,
Dude, it is a psychological rape company.
well, I don't disagree, but who's on it?
Me.
Me too.
I have to be so that people can see this damn video.
Well, and that's their goal. Like the goal of that
is
is
we're putting through that camera, through that cable, through that.
yeah, the idea of starting a company or something like
Definitely.
that doesn't come with a cap for I only want this to be used by this many people.
So there are monopoly laws.
Yeah, that's true.
They own everything.
And we're starting to see
Twitter, WhatsApp, everything.
starting to see things starting to they're
Yeah.
right slowly the
Yeah.
the resources that we use
Yep.
are
It's
funneling.
Yes. Yes. So the fact that Facebook does not yet have a cellular provider, like things like that, I think the only reason they're not doing those things is because they have to be careful to stay. Oh, lumbar.
Oh yeah.
To stay to the point where they don't.
Or they're waiting it
Where
out.
they can continue to be a platform.
It could be waiting out too, right? Like
Could be.
they have a timeline,
Yeah.
right? And they can't jump too fast. So it's I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but I could.
On another episode, we'll do it. What are we going to call the other episode?
We're gonna stay on subject this time.
Let's do it. Lovely. So, aerospace.
Yeah. You want to talk about what I
let's
did,
fast
Tom?
forward a little bit. Something that I'm intrigued about, and I don't know that I completely understand, is my understanding of your job currently is that you're helping create a procedure. Is that right? A manual.
I had to create the procedure as a part of the job.
Is that done?
That's done.
Can it be discussed?
To some level, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it exiting the craft?
Yeah. So when you spend time in a zero gravity environment,
Yeah.
you are essentially losing
Muscle mass.
bone density and muscle mass, right?
Definitely.
So the longevity of that really determines the status of the crew members' ability to move when they get back.
Okay.
Okay, so there, a lot of what they can do in space now, as far as like the International Space Station and whatnot, like they can do a lot of exercises that help with that they couldn't recently or up until recently do. But still, you're traveling at 16,000 miles an hour,
Okay.
right, in a tiny capsule,
Definitely.
and then you're going to be plopped down onto on Earth's surface. So you're not always able to just go pop the door open and pop your head out and wave.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm okay, or there's going to be some assistance needed. But not only for the nominal side, right? Not only for whenever things go good, but
Exiting after a catastrophe.
if something bad happens, now
Can we talk about the possibilities of bad? Are there statistics?
I would say
Probably mostly theory. We haven't shot enough.
well, I mean, we've done there's been enough history
Okay.
to make it plausible to that it's going to be a success,
Okay.
right? Because otherwise they wouldn't do it. They have to go through a very extensive amount of testing and right, like
Definitely.
to show that they're capable. But things happen.
What is the worst case scenario?
Um,
So my thought is exiting. Is that after?
touchdown.
So we're not talking like there is no exit strategy until it has touched down.
No.
So exit strategy before touching down is death.
Yes.
is there a certain footage once it's entered the atmosphere that there is a parachute?
No. Well, there's a parachute on the capsule.
But the people.
People know.
So the capsule fails, the people are,
Done.
in theory, yeah.
Yes.
Wow. How many people are typically in a capsule?
Well, if you look at Soyuz, which is the Russian capsule,
Okay.
which is what we currently use in the U.S.
Okay.
Until SpaceX, right? So technically, I say currently.
Yeah.
I should rewind because
Yeah.
SpaceX has done a awesome job, and they're putting up people. I think they just put another crew up. I mean, they're constantly not putting people up, right? I think they've got
Mars, bro.
Yeah, they're going to Mars. Spaceship or Starship's going to Mars
Hopefully
for sure.
sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you might be surprised. I mean,
Hope he lives to
I was actually I think I could say this. So I was at the NASA facility in Houston
Okay.
whenever Elon shot up the first Crew Dragon or the Falcon Heavy.
Shut up,
Whenever, and remember the Tesla was on it.
dude.
They put a
The,
Tesla in
Roadster?
the road. They put it
Yeah.
in space with
Yeah.
Spaceman. So I was in the NASA facility, which is really the really the rivalry
For work
in
or
a sense.
For,
I was there for work.
So it wasn't a,
This was not a
pleasure
tour.
trip.
No,
Shut up,
no. I
dude.
was in.
well, it was a pleasure trip. Just,
Oh, it was awesome. It was. I mean, it was great. Just being there is really cool. But some of the stuff that I got to do there was like not something that 5 years ago I would have ever thought was something possible for me.
that's crazy. So
But they were all cheering
yeah,
because
I mean,
it's
of
exciting
course.
for us as a country.
Definitely. Yeah. So SpaceX as a company, I believe, is changing the pace at which we move. I think they're creating a new standard.
Yeah,
Not that all the companies, in addition to SpaceX, aren't also doing well. I think the drive behind SpaceX and willingness. Okay, so the other companies can't fail. They don't have a choice. They're shareholders. And there are large boards, and there are always going to be times. So I think it's cool because SpaceX, there are still shareholders and things.
well, they're because they're public now.
Yeah.
But for the long time in their initial innovation, they were a private company, and the decisions that they made didn't have to be approved by. They had a board.
Yeah.
Of course, they had the necessary checks and balances.
Yes, definitely.
But as far as making a decision that was the best for the company versus making the decision that was best for the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that what's nice about that is creating that standard allowed the other companies to then they can innovate now.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a point in time where it's, hey, we're going to spend, and I don't know what the number is, we're just going to say, we're going to spend $20 million on this project. The shareholders would have been like, no. Like, that doesn't make me money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, going to Mars. The shareholders today will never see the return on investment on cost to go to Mars. Like, the odds are so small because your average investor is 30 and above.
Mm-hmm.
So they're never going to approve that.
Yeah.
Whereas Elon's just like, we're going to go to Mars.
Mm-hmm. No matter what it takes.
Yeah, check it. I honestly think that if the pace of SpaceX changed tomorrow, so much so that it killed his journey to Mars, I believe he would create a new company and compete with himself. Like, I
totally buy into that.
Yeah. And I think he's such a savage that he would probably call it like Space Y.
Totally.
That was crazy.
Yes.
He would. He would do it and laugh about it, like with no regrets.
So
No regrets.
I don't even think that's. I mean, granted, I have the most interest in the space stuff, but I don't even know if it's interest. I guess I follow it more. The other project of innovation that's happening is the stuff that's happening in California with the underground tunnels.
The Boring Company?
Yeah, exactly. And the brick,
Absolutely
right?
dope.
The brick that they made. That
I ordered a Cybertruck.
Oh God, that's freaking awesome. I have another buddy who ordered one as well that I work with.
4 minutes after it was able to be ordered, I ordered it. And and the reason I know that is I couldn't be home because I didn't want to keep Becca up. So I was watching the reveal on an iPad at the Waffle House.
That is so you.
And literally ordered it right then.
On the iPad?
You want to take a break? We can take a break.
No, you're good.
Okay. But yeah, I ordered it. So right then, I actually transferred the video footage over to my phone so that I could use my iPad to order the truck.
Huh.
So I pre-ordered a truck right then.
So there's not even a date, right?
No.
I actually heard
October this year. Coming year.
Yeah.
October this coming year. It should happen. We still don't have a real cost on the truck. Luckily, only a few changes have been made. Honestly,
do they keep you updated?
No, and I don't expect them to.
How many were ordered total? Do you know?
I don't know. I think you can still order them. Like I believe it's still.
Wait, that's badass.
Does that have a charge?
No, I think it's just broken. Oh, that's fine. I do gotta pee though.
We can take it if you want.
Yeah, just take like 2 minutes.
All right, we're going to take a short break. 2 minutes. We'll be back. Everybody, I'm going to put my social links up. Please, if you haven't already subscribed or followed, please do that. Share it up. We're going to take a short break. I'm actually going to go offline and then come back on. And we'll get into the real meat potatoes of this stuff. Thanks, everybody that's been following at this point. I love you guys. I really appreciate your support. We'll come back on. And it is, dude, Ray's energy drink. By the way, the coffee we're drinking, One Nation Coffee. One Nation Coffee. You can check them out online, order online. Every time you order coffee, money is donated to police and military for they have different things that they're doing. They sent 2,000 pounds of coffee to New York to support the staff there during COVID relief. So, yeah. Really awesome. All right, guys.